Greetings, brothers. This is Dr. Jess. I'd like to share with you what you need to know about what happens to your body when abusing drugs and alcohol. I made this slideshow exclusively for the clientele at White Deer Run because I want you to know exactly what happens when you abuse alcohol and drugs and some practical suggestions on what to do while you're in rehab and while you're out of rehab. If I use a big word, simply ignore it because I'm going to be explaining it in the next few seconds directly afterwards, okay? This is not made to confuse you. This is made to give you usable, actionable information. Well, we all know that addictions and alcoholism affects mind, body, and spirit. But as you're probably aware, in any rehab, even in White Deer Run, they do a lot with the mind and with the spirit, but not so much with the body. And if you look, you have to engage all three areas in order to heal. Notice the arrows are pointing in both directions. So if something happens with the mind, it's going to affect the body and the spirit. Something happens with the spirit, it's going to affect body and mind. If something happens with body, it affects mind and spirit. By the time you get to rehab, and our bodies have been abused so badly, and this is not to insult anybody because I've done it myself, okay, the one part of this triangle that needs to be attended to is the body. Okay, yes, you've got reasonable food, okay, and you're being cared for medically, but a little more can be done because of the damage we have done to ourselves. Okay, so let's acknowledge the fact that all three areas are involved right now. So the first takeaway point is you must treat mind, spirit, and body to recover from alcohol and drug abuse. I don't think anybody argues with that. Okay, what does alcohol actually do to you? Okay, you should know that we can only metabolize about 1 ounce of alcohol per hour. And does anybody here only drink 1 ounce an hour? I don't think so. But this is what happens. Alcohol degrades into acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is essentially formaldehyde. And if anybody doesn't know what formaldehyde is, like most, it's understandable. Okay, formaldehyde is embalming fluid. Okay, that's what they use in bodies to embalm them so they don't degrade so quickly. So embalming fluid, acetaldehyde embalming fluid, okay, creates brain damage. And frankly, it's not if, it's when. So depending on how much you drink and all other conditions, you're going to get brain damage. Now, if you're walking around and not, falling down and not walking into walls, the brain damage is not permanent. Okay, but I need you to know that the hangovers, the neurological problems are all coming from the embalming fluid that's created from the alcohol. So here is something that you really want to get together in your head. Alcohol creates embalming fluid, which creates brain damage. Okay? There's no argument about this. This is what's going to happen. So the takeaway points are you have to treat mind, body, and spirit to recover from alcohol abuse. And alcohol will create embalming fluid that will damage your brain. Now, there's something called adrenal fatigue. This is your stress gland. Okay, drugs, alcohol, stress, and all compulsions and addictions assault the adrenal gland. And eventually it starts to fail. It starts becoming fatigued. And you can see that many other things that you do in combination will cause adrenal fatigue, and particularly smoking. I know a lot of you guys smoke, a lot of caffeine intake, infections, psychological stress, toxins, and we're always exposed to toxins, fear, lack of sleep, and you can read this as well as I can. And guess what? It's not just one thing in this accumulation of things, okay? Now, I know we're always arguing about how much high-test coffee we can have, and sometimes it stops at 10 o'clock in the morning, and occasionally they'll let us have caffeinated beverages until noon. Okay, but understand that coffee gives you a fair amount of caffeine. Okay, and I have a list here of different things and what their caffeine content is, and you need to know that caffeine stimulates your adrenal gland and further depletes your vitamin and mineral stores. Okay, and I'm going to get to that, what that means in just a moment. Adrenal fatigue. This is something that we don't really concentrate on, but you should know about it. Symptoms include things like chronic fatigue, insomnia, sleep disturbances, being overwhelmed, craving for salty and or sweet foods, sensitivity to light, low stamina, low recovery from illnesses, brain fog, poor digestion, poor concentration, low immune function, low blood pressure, menopausal symptoms. Well, I know that doesn't that is not big for us. Okay, sensitivity to cold, allergies, anxiety and irritability, depression, poor memory, low libido. Any of that sound like you guys? I know it sounds like me. Okay, and so one of the things you have to know is that not only are we dealing with the brain insult that's coming from the alcohol breaking down to the embalming fluid, but we assault our stress glands so much over such a period of time that these symptoms can occur. So now the takeaways up to this point are you must treat spirit, mind, and body to recover from alcoholism or drug abuse. Alcohol will create embalming fluid that will damage your brain, and drug and alcohol abuse, as well as all the stressors that have been created around us, create adrenal fatigue and adrenal spelt wrong here, sorry, okay, that causes numerous symptoms, numerous and varied symptoms, okay? Now, our body uses enzymes to create metabolism. So enzymes take one thing and create another. We have these long series of genes that create enzymes so that our metabolism can work. Guess what? We need vitamins and minerals, which are cofactors and coenzymes, for optimal function. We don't have vitamins and minerals, the enzymes don't work. And without vitamins and minerals, your body will not work optimally. So, now more takeaway points. You must treat mind, body, and spirit to recover from alcohol and drug abuse. Alcohol will create embalming fluid that will damage your brain. Drug and alcohol abuse, as well as all the stressors that are created around us, create adrenal fatigue that causes numerous and varied symptoms. And you must support your enzymes to heal and function. Okay? Sounds like a tall order, but it's not. So alcohol and drug abuse deplete your body of trace minerals, okay, things like sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and sulfur, things like iron, copper, selenium, zinc, iodine, chromium, fluoride, manganese, molybdenum. And the B vitamins, when you see a list here, okay, are necessary for lots of different processes, but are absolutely necessary to run your body. And we could get into, the various pathways and, which particular B vitamins are necessary. But if you look at the system as a whole, all of your enzymes and all of your body processes need the entire B complex and your trace minerals in order to work. And therein lies a little secret. Not only do you need to treat your mind, body, and spirit and, not know that alcohol will create embalming fluid that damages your brain and that drug and alcohol abuse and the stresses will create adrenal fatigue and that you need to support your enzyme functions to heal, you have to realize that alcohol and drug abuse depletes your stores of B vitamins and minerals. And you need to replace that, okay? Because if you have your vitamins and minerals, then all the enzymes will work. And if all the enzymes will work, your cells will work. And if your cells work, then everything will work. Because if you put cells together, you get tissues. If you put tissues together, you get organs. You put organs together, you get a body. So if we treat things at the cellular level, you'll heal. And what to do? It's not believe it or not, it's a complex thing, but it's as simple as you need supplementation. Okay, our food, all of our food is grown in nutrient deficient soil, even organic foods. And as addicts, we have depleted our stores of vitamins and minerals big time. And we're also exposed to many toxins, including heavy metals, microbes, and chemicals. So what do we really need to do? Well, as a basic thing to do, we need a good multivitamin, multimineral, and you should look for a liquid, powder, or capsule form. Now, when you're at White Deer Run or any other rehab, they do have multivitamins, so you should avail yourself of that. In other words, you should ask, when I was there, I took 2 multivitamins a day, okay? You should ask the nurses if you could take multivitamins. Guess what? It will help out a lot because even in the tablet form, which is usually pretty poorly absorbed, if your body needs it, it will suck it up like a sponge. Okay, and when you're out, look for a multivitamin, multimineral that is either liquid or powder or capsule because that's the most easily absorbed. Okay, consider additional minerals and look for liquid fulvic acid, humic acid minerals. Okay, they're on Amazon, they're easy to get, and they're not overly expensive, and they'll do well for you. Drink lots of filtered water. Think about 32 or 64 ounces a day. If you're getting that big, the big water bottle from Grace Grace Baptist Church. Okay, that's about 32 ounces. You have two of those a day, you're good. Now, the water that comes out of those dispensers of White Deer Run is filtered and run through ultraviolet light. So believe it or not, that's pretty good water. All right, and you won't taste any chlorine in there. Fill that little thingy up twice during the day. Just kind of sip it. Believe it or not, you'll be doing yourself a big favor by hydrating, and that's the best way to hydrate. And try and limit the high carbohydrate snacks and eat fruit. Well, I realize that, you look at the fruit, the apples and the oranges, and you're like, I'd rather have, Doritos or something like that. Maybe lean towards more of the fruit than the carbs, okay? Because the carbs kind of drain you of what you need. And believe it or not, it's as simple as that. If you start there, you'll start healing. So the takeaways here, okay? You have to treat body, mind, and spirit. Alcohol will create embalming fluid that will damage your brain. I'm going to hammer that point on continuously. Drug and alcohol abuse, as well as all the stressors we face, create adrenal fatigue that causes numerous and varied symptoms. You need to support your enzymes in order to heal, and that means getting good sources of vitamins and minerals. Alcohol and drug abuse depletes your stores of B vitamins and minerals, and your body will not work because the enzymes won't work. And at our stage, and I'm included in this, okay, we cannot eat our vitamins. In other words, it doesn't matter what you're eating, you're not going to get enough vitamins. You got to build up those stores. So you need supplementation, there's no question. Okay, otherwise it's going to be super difficult. There are other chronic illnesses that usually are associated with all the depletion that we've created. One of them is leaky gut syndrome. And leaky gut syndrome creates a chronic inflammation and will affect your body systems. The book that you're seeing here is something that I wrote, okay, and it's on Amazon. It's called Leaky Gut, Leaky Cells, Leaky Brain. If you get it in the Kindle form, it's only $9. If not, you could start looking at different parts of the internet that will talk about leaky gut syndrome, but be really careful that who's ever talking about leaky gut syndrome is not just hawking a product, okay? That is something that you have to be really close. It's called bias, okay? Yeast or candida overgrowth will create acid. Yeast itself creates acetaldehyde, which makes the embalming fluid thing much worse. Neurotransmitter imbalances that are caused by our lack of support in vitamins and minerals and so forth, and our poor digestion, okay, can create things like depression, anxiety, and all different kinds of mood disorders. So the final takeaways is all the things I mentioned before, and just the realization that there are other things that could contribute to symptoms, and you should seek the help of a practitioner who understands this. But the best book I can think of is the one that I wrote that would explain this and also gives you lots of suggestions on how to treat it and so forth. Okay, and if you decrease chronic inflammation, if you eradicate chronic inflammation, you can heal everything. Okay, because that's the real basis of a lot of illnesses. If you have any questions, contact your counselor or the nurses, and they have my contact information should the need occur, and I'll be happy to, through that mechanism, okay, answer any questions that you might have. Thanks for listening. Okay, remember, you guys are awesome, and while I was there, I used to always tell everybody, if we treat each other really well, especially the newcomers, the biggest problem we have is a lack of self-worth, right? Believe me when I tell you, the group that was there when I was there, okay, we worked very hard at making sure that every person felt valued. Keep doing that, all right? Believe me when I tell you that that's the best way for us to start healing, okay? Is so we look valued. Hold the door for one another, okay? If somebody's having trouble with a chore, help them out, okay? If somebody leaves and the chore is there, do the chore. Our chores aren't that hard, okay? Newcomers coming in, make sure you check on them. Make sure that they know that they're loved and they're valued. Okay? Treat each other with kindness. And believe it or not, everybody will start healing and will be the light that they follow. Okay? This is Dr. Jess signing off. Thank you for your attention. And guess what, guys? If nobody told you they love you today, Dr. Jess does.